Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at some really interesting cards that have come around in Starbirth in Japan. They're going to be in Brilliant Stars over here. I am not claiming that these are going to be the greatest cards in the history of the world. What I am claiming is that these are super interesting cards that you should be a little bit excited about, because these ones could be really fun. So let's start off with Farfetch'd. And I know a bunch of people are huge Kamiya fans. I personally am not, but that's alright. I love that the artists in the Pokemon trading card game are getting more love than they have pretty much ever. I love to see more and more people talking about this all the time. This makes me extremely happy. So go for it, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome. But it's a card that interests me. For 2 colorless energy, you deal 20 damage, plus 10 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So essentially what Farfetch'd does, and I should mention all of our translations here come from the lovely Antoine Billet, I should have said that a moment ago. What Farfetch'd does is it basically finishes anything off. That's the goal of Farfetch'd, right? You hit with something, anything, doesn't really matter what, and you get a Pokemon at half HP or maybe slightly lower. And when they're at half HP, or maybe slightly lower, what you then do is you come in with Farfetch'd, you attach a Twin Energy. Twin Energy is all you need here. And then all of a sudden you go and get a big one-hit KO. No, I don't think it's a stunning card that is going to be a mainstay in every single deck. In any deck that plays Twin Energy or any energy acceleration that will work on a single prize Pokemon that are getting 2-hit KOs, this works. Because, you know, off the top of my head, I love Ice Rider Calyrex. It's a deck I love very much indeed. And it often does 250. So what you really need to do, you know, is against a big VMAX, you need a second hit. Well, if your opponent doesn't heal, hit 250 with Ice Rider Calyrex, then bring in Farfetch'd to finish off. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, and that sounds like fun to me. Now, there is a new Weavile coming in here. Now, at 90 HP, I do appreciate that it's a stage 1 that I can get with Level Ball. Does make it a little bit more consistent and easy to get out and all of that good stuff, which is rather lovely. And what we're really excited about here is not the free energy 100, no, that's terrible. It is the single energy, flip 2 coins. If you get at least 1 head, your opponent reveals their hand. For each heads that you flip, put a card from their hand to the bottom of the deck. And this sounds kind of like fun. And then you go, well, hang on a second. This is Cyrus's initiative. This is literally Cyrus's initiative as an attack. If you were playing back in Gen 4, you'll get that. Cyrus's initiative actually saw a lot of play. And we actually did see for a while people would play Sableye from Stormfront. They would use Impersonate, no energy, search for a supporter, discard it, use it as your attack. And we would see Sableye using Impersonate to use Cyrus's initiative as your attack. If you're playing the kind of deck which puts your opponent down to a low hand size, this can be the kind of card that finishes the game off really rather nicely. Don't sleep on this one. Again, I'm not saying this is going to be some amazing top-tier deck which is going to start crushing everything, but I absolutely am saying that this is the kind of deck where you're going to be able to hurt your opponent, and even if people don't play just this on its own, this is still going to be a potentially really nice stage 1 card that can be used in these kind of control disruption decks. Now, we also need to have a little bit of a look at Gorluck here, and I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, Gorluck is kind of like the perfect card for me. I really weirdly have a penchant. I run towards stage 1 fighting Pokemon that can attack for a single energy. Oh, alright, this is 2 colorless energy, but come on, Twin Energy, you'll be fine. Now, I do love 150 HP on a stage 1 Pokemon, that's actually really good. I don't like free energy 120 damage, no. But what we've got here is big hands. 2 colorless energy, this attack does 10 more damage, 30 base, for each card in your hand. And I want to like this. I desperately, desperately want to like this. This is pretty much my ideal kind of card. The problem is you've got to fill your hand up, and that's awkward. And we got Chinchino at the moment, and even when that rotates out, it's going to be replaced by Lipard. That's quite important because you discard one card from your hand, but you draw two. And we've got some good recovery around at the moment, which is lovely. But the reality is, Marnie's in the format. And Marnie sees a huge amount of play. And there is absolutely no way whatsoever a card like this can ever be good with Marnie seeing a bunch of play. Because Marnie's going to put you down to a 4-card hand, and then you've got to try and draw a bunch. And then the next turn, Marnie's going to put you down to a 4-card hand, and then you've got to try and draw a bunch. I want this to be great. And maybe Marnie actually rotates out in September, and as it stands at the moment, Marnie is absolutely due to rotate out in September, and we get some more pure draw, as in draw, not draw until you've got X number of cards in your hand, actual just draw. Maybe this could be good in the future. It is definitely one I'm keeping an eye on, but certainly while Marnie is a thing, this makes me slightly nervous. But we are talking single energy, we're talking 150 HP, we're talking potentially big damage. This is one that I absolutely adore. Now, Staraptor is a kind of Pokemon we've seen before. This is not a new attack. It's not the 4 energy, 180 discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Yeah, it's 180. Yeah, you get a KO on Crobat and Kricketune. It's not actually completely terrible until you realise that it is 4 energy on a stage 2, and that is really gosh darned expensive. What we're looking for here is Whirlwind, free colourless energy, shuffle your opponent's active Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your opponent's deck. Yes, if their active Pokemon is the only one they've got, you will win the game instantly. They will be out of Pokemon and you will win. Yes, this is a great attack to use to hurt your opponent if they've built up one really big Pokemon and have no backup. You get rid of this, they have to spend the next couple turns building up a new Pokemon, at which point you're pretty much winning the game, and if you're not, do it again. But the third energy hurts me here. I want to be using this for a twin energy, or even a double turbo energy, because it's important to note double turbo energy means you do 20 less damage on your attacks, but this doesn't do any damage, so there's no downside to using double turbo energy here. That is coming in Starbirth and Brilliant Stars. Starbirth Japan, Brilliant Stars for us. The problem is you need a third energy here, and you're a stage 2 Pokemon. It's a lot to ask. This attack, for a double colourless on a stage 1, could potentially be broken, which arguably is why they don't have it. But as it stands at the moment, it's fine. It's good. But I think it's fair to say it's a little bit expensive, and it's probably not going to work quite as well as we might have hoped. Speaking of hope, I hope Beartic ends up being good. I love Beartic. I mean, Beartic generally, right? You've just got a big, scary ice bear. Who does not want a big, scary ice bear? Actually, I should mention a couple of these translations, like Beartic, are actually taken from the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net. So, yeah, Antoine and Joe, two of my favourite people in the Pokemon community. And 140 HP on a stage 1 is quite high. And free energy 130 is terrible. But 1 water, 1 colourless energy, 40 damage during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon cannot attack. I like this, ladies and gentlemen. I like this very much indeed. And this is an attack you've got to time. You've got to work around. What I really enjoy is this is basically a mirror image of the first ever Beartic, the one that came around in Emerging Powers, that for free energy did 50 damage, and the defending Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Now, for what it's worth, when that Beartic came out, everyone was trying to play it with Vileplume, which blocked item cards. We don't have a thing like Vileplume around at the moment, which is rather upsetting, so that's not great. And the fact of the matter is that Beartic never really worked as well as we might have hoped. And nowadays, without good item lock, it's worse. And the theory here, essentially, is that you stop your opponent attacking, and sure, you're only doing 40 damage a turn, which is actually less than the one from Emerging Powers, although it is cheaper. But don't worry about it, because if your opponent's not attacking, it doesn't matter how much damage you do. As long as you're doing some damage, you'll get them eventually. Sounds good, yes, but and there is a big but here, it's just awkward. Because the problem is, you end up in this annoying situation where if your opponent switches, you've done 40 damage and that's it. You've just done 40 damage. That's all you've managed to pull off. And there are a lot of switching cards around at the moment. Everybody plays a bunch of switching cards. And as soon as your opponent switches, they're fine. Even if the same Pokemon then comes active, they're fine. All they need to do is get to the bench. It doesn't even need to be a switch. It could just be retreating. And that's the problem here. I want this to be good. I desperately want it to be good. And I do think if we end up in a situation in the future with item lock, this could be really good. But we have a problem. And the problem is, if your opponent retreats or switches, then they're getting out the active and they've got a new Pokemon, then they can attack, and it's all gone wrong. Now, Clefable's kind of an interesting one, although as soon as I see 100 HP nowadays, I just get sad that I can't use Level Ball. Like, what's the point? Give me 10 less HP, use Level Ball, I'll be fine with it. And it's not the free energy 90 damage, that's even worse than we just saw on Beartick, and I didn't like what we saw on Beartick, but you flip 3 coins for a single colourless energy. For each heads, pick one of your Pokemon, and then search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from each of those Pokemon, and place it on them to evolve them. It's cheating evolution. And incidentally, it doesn't say you've got to wait a turn or any of that. What that means is you can just immediately evolve. You can play a Pokemon and then immediately evolve it with Clefable. I have a couple of problems. Problem number 1, this is a stage 1, not a basic, so I've got to wait a turn before I can get this going and then use this to evolve, and that's a little bit slow. And reason number 2, we keep seeing this and it doesn't work. We saw it on Leafeon GX with Grand Bloom. For each of your bench basic Pokemon, each of them, search for a card that evolves and evolve them. Leafeon never really saw much play, and I worry that's going to be the case with Clefable. If it was a basic Pokemon, I'd feel very differently, but it's not, so I don't. By turn 2, you could be evolving your Pokemon naturally anyway. The one time this did work, however, was Spiritomb. Spiritomb was phenomenal. And Spiritomb only evolved one of your bench Pokemon. But, firstly, Spiritomb did it for 0 energy. And secondly, Spiritomb was item lock. So you would basically use Spiritomb to evolve up that Vileplume I showed you a moment ago. So Spiritomb would item lock until Vileplume came out. Then Vileplume would item lock and you'd go about your game. As much as I love this, we've seen attacks like this in the past not work. And I think that's where we're going to be with Clefable again. I think we're seeing another one that's just not going to work. And the last Pokemon I want to talk about here, the last one that I think could be kind of fun and we could be seeing be good in the future, is Sigilif. And essentially what this one does is you flip 3 coins, and for each head you attach an energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. Well, we're back to Clefable again, aren't we? We're back to flipping. Now the thing is, if we go back, and this is a basic Pokemon, let's be clear, we can go back to stuff like Volcanion, for instance, and Volcanion attached 2 energy from your discard pile, and we liked it. This was the first ever Volcanion. This attached 2 energy from your discard pile to different Pokemon, and that was really good. This could get up to 3, and it could get them all to the same Pokemon or to different or whatever, but it's flippy. And I do think this one has a real chance of being good, not the attack. The attack is Psychic, 10 more plus 30 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Let's not worry too much about that one. Yeah, fine, you can pile a bunch of energy on and maybe do huge damage, but nowadays, where HPs are where they are, it takes so much energy to get to big KOs here, it's nothing to worry about. But the first attack kind of is. The first attack I really like here. But you need to flip heads, and generally you'll hit 1 or 2. Now, the good news is you can play Glimwood Tangle, and then you'll hit 2 more often than you'll hit 1. But now it's not just a basic Pokemon. Now it's a stadium. And remember, you're attaching from the discard pile, which means you've got to get the energy in the discard pile. And it wasn't an issue for Volcanion, but it might be an issue here. I really worry that the idea of having to play around, getting energy in the discard, and then get your basic with your energy, and then flip, and potentially also have to get Glimwood Tangle out, feels like it might end up being a little bit too much in the end, and that makes me a little bit sad. I like these cards. These are all cards that I look at and I go, you know what? I can get behind them. These could be really good. I personally want Gorluck and Beartic to be amazing, and I'm not sure they will be, and that's a little bit sad. But I tell you something for nothing, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited about all of these. All of these look really, really fun. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.